You trusted her. You gave her your time, your love, your loyalty. But what she gave you back wasn't love. It was a knife in the back, with a smile on her face. And the worst part, you stayed. You forgave. You hoped she'd change. She didn't. This isn't just a story, it's your life. But today, everything changes. Today we expose the 7 betrayals you, as a man, must never forgive, because your peace, your future, your very soul depends on it. Comment below, I refuse betrayal. Let the world know your standards just rose. If you're a man living in today's world, you've probably been lied to more than once. Not just by partners, but by society itself. You were told to always forgive, to stay quiet, to be the bigger person. But what if I told you that forgiveness isn't always noble? That sometimes forgiving the wrong person is the most dangerous decision you'll ever make? You need to hear this, because what you're about to learn isn't soft advice. This is ancient truth, filtered through the fire of experience and sharpened by the principles of Stoicism. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a wake-up call. And if you're serious about applying these truths, not just learning them, there's something you need to know. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint is now available. It's the clearest, most brutally honest ebook ever written for men on how to build unshakable standards in relationships using Stoic principles. It won't be available forever, and once public access closes, that's it. So while you listen today, keep this in mind. The blueprint exists, and it's changing lives already. You were born to lead, to build, to protect. But somewhere along the way, someone taught you to tolerate disrespect, to smile through betrayal. And every time you did, you lost a piece of yourself. Today, you reclaim it. Let's begin with the first betrayal. And it's one you've seen before. Number 1. She lies without flinching. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't need shouting or physical wounds. It's the quiet corrosion of truth, delivered with a straight face and steady eyes. You ask where she was. Her story makes sense, until it doesn't. The pieces fit until you look a little closer. Then the timelines shift. The small details don't add up. Her words wear a disguise, and her eyes dodge yours at the wrong moment. You want to believe her. You tell yourself it's minor, that maybe you're overthinking. But deep down, you know. Because every man has a gut instinct, and you've been taught to silence it. Every time she lies, she tells you that your reality doesn't matter. That what you know, what you feel, isn't real unless she confirms it. That is not just deceit, that's theft. It's the theft of your perception, of your confidence, of your sanity. Over time, you start to second-guess everything, not just her, but yourself. You question your memory, your emotions, even your worth. This is how control is won, not by force, but by subtle rewiring of your trust. And when she gets away with one lie, it becomes easier to tell the next. What started as a small distortion becomes a web you can't escape from. She lies, and instead of demanding truth, you adapt. You lower your expectations. You start walking on eggshells around the very person who should be your peace. Men, this is not love. It never was. Love does not thrive in shadows. It does not play games with your reality. A woman who lies to you without flinching has already chosen her side, and it's not yours. She's protecting her secrets, not your bond. She's preserving her image, not your dignity. And the moment you choose to overlook a lie, you choose to participate in your own betrayal. You hand her the blueprint to destroy you piece by piece. Because a lie, repeated enough, doesn't just become her habit, it becomes your prison. If you can't trust her words, you can't trust her presence. And if you can't trust her presence, You're sleeping next to a stranger with a mask. She'll call it misunderstanding or miscommunication or say she forgot. She'll play innocent because the truth would require accountability. But ask yourself, how often have you lied to someone you truly loved and respected? How many times did you distort the truth just to get away with something? You didn't. Because when a man loves deeply, he protects, he preserves, he tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. So when she doesn't, when she picks comfort over honesty, when she crafts stories over sharing her reality, she's not just protecting herself. She's telling you, without words, that she doesn't fear losing you. And that should haunt you. A woman who fears losing your respect doesn't lie. A woman who values your bond doesn't twist the truth. So if she does, it's not a mistake. It's a choice. And once you know, it becomes your choice too. Do you stay and adapt to betrayal, or do you walk and reclaim your truth? Number 2. She humiliates you publicly. It starts slow. You're with friends, maybe out for dinner, and she throws in a joke at your expense. It's small. Everyone laughs. You laugh too, even though it hits something deep inside. You brush it off. It was just a joke, right? But then it happens again, and again. Suddenly, the person you confided in, the one who should be your anchor, is casually using your flaws, your past, your insecurities as entertainment. And the crowd laughs while your dignity bleeds. You sit there, smiling, nodding, because what else can you do without seeming too sensitive, too weak? So you endure it. You pretend it's fine. But inside, something cracks. What she's doing isn't humor. It's exposure, and not the kind that makes you stronger. It's the kind that makes you smaller. A woman who loves you doesn't weaponize your vulnerability. She doesn't take the sacred things you shared and turn them into ammunition. Public humiliation is not a slip. It's a calculated act. It's her way of showing you and everyone else that she holds power over your image, that she can bring you down a notch whenever she feels like it. And the more you tolerate it, the more she uses it, because now she knows. You won't fight back. You'll just laugh along. But deep inside, you're dying a little. You're replaying the moment when she stripped you of your dignity, not in private, but in front of the world. It's not about being sensitive. It's about being disrespected in plain sight. You see, a man doesn't need to be defended in every moment, but he does need to feel like the woman beside him is in his corner. And when she's not, when she becomes the audience and the performer of your downfall, she doesn't just disrespect you. She teaches others to do the same. If she doesn't guard your reputation, who will? If she allows herself to degrade you publicly, what does she say in rooms you're not in? You need to understand this. Love doesn't embarrass. It elevates. A good woman doesn't mock her man. She honors him, even when they're alone, especially when they're not. So when she crosses that line, it's not just a red flag. It's a signal. She doesn't fear losing you. She doesn't fear crossing that boundary because she knows you'll stay. And that's when you lose yourself. Not all at once, but moment by moment, insult by insult. And if you don't stand up, you'll find yourself becoming smaller in every space you enter, carrying her words like chains. That is not strength. That is not sacrifice. That is self-destruction. Men are not meant to live in emotional submission. You are not her toy, her clown, or her ego boost. You are her equal, or you are nothing at all. If she can't uplift you in public, she doesn't deserve your vulnerability in private. If she can't defend your name around others, she's already betrayed your trust. There is no recovery from repeated humiliation. The moment you accept it as normal, you trade your self-respect for false peace. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and not recognize the man staring back. Not because you've changed, but because you allowed someone to reduce you over time, with a smile, with a joke, with a laugh that never included your soul. Reclaim it. Reclaim you. Number 3. She weaponizes intimacy. You noticed it the first time you argued. Nothing major, just a disagreement over something small. But suddenly she turned cold, distant, like your presence was an annoyance instead of a comfort, like your very existence had become inconvenient, and intimacy disappeared, not as a moment of genuine emotional space, but as a calculated withdrawal. And it stung more than the argument itself, because it wasn't just about space. It was about power, and over time you saw the pattern form clearly, how affection became a reward, and her love, her touch, her attention, were no longer acts of connection, but levers she pulled based on how obedient you were, how compliant, how willing to suppress your truth to maintain harmony. And that is not love. That is psychological control, dressed as emotional distance. And yet you tolerated it, hoping it would return, that she would return. But what you didn't realize is that every time you gave in, every time you apologized for simply existing in your full truth, you reinforced her belief that intimacy was hers to grant or revoke. And you began to shrink, to edit yourself, to fear disagreement not because of the disagreement itself, but because of what would be withheld in its aftermath. And slowly you lost more than affection. You lost your ability to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted unconditionally. And she knew what she was doing even if she pretended not to. Because when someone loves you, they do not use connection as currency. They do not turn vulnerability into punishment. And they do not take something so sacred and twist it into a tool of behavior modification. And yet that's what happened. And you began to live in anticipation, calculating your words, managing her moods, reading her signals not out of love but out of survival. Because when love becomes conditional, it stops being love and becomes a transaction, a quiet contract where one party always loses. And in this case, that was you. And I know you might tell yourself that relationships ebb and flow, that people have moods and intimacy can't always be perfect. And that's true. But this isn't about a bad day. It's about a recurring strategy where she makes you earn what should be given freely. And when you're forced to earn love, you become addicted to approval. And when you're addicted to approval, you become enslaved by fear. And a fearful man is not a free man. And the tragedy is, most men don't even realize this until years later, when the emotional fatigue has worn them to the bone. When they no longer initiate because they're tired of being rejected, tired of being punished, tired of feeling alone in a relationship that once promised connection, but now only delivers conditions. And if this is you, it's time to stop rationalizing, time to stop pretending that this is normal, because you deserve love that doesn't come with invisible strings, that doesn't disappear every time you disagree. And if she cannot handle your truth without punishing your heart, she was never holding your heart in the first place. She was holding your compliance. And the longer you stay in that kind of dynamic, the more you lose pieces of yourself that you may never fully recover. And it won't be her fault for long. It will be yours for choosing comfort over courage, quiet over confrontation, familiarity over freedom. And this is your moment to choose differently, to draw a line, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Because a man who values his peace doesn't beg for love. He builds his life in a way where love flows freely or not at all. Number 4, she disrespects your time. It's subtle at first. She shows up late once, and you let it slide because everyone gets caught up sometimes, and then she cancels plans last minute with a casual text, and you excuse it again because she seemed sincere. And before you realize it, this becomes a pattern, a slow erosion of reliability, where your time becomes flexible only when it's convenient for her. And she doesn't even apologize anymore because you've trained her, not with your words but with your tolerance, to believe that your time is optional, negotiable, disposable. And this isn't about being rigid or controlling, it's about respect. Because when someone values you, they value your time. And when they don't, They take liberties with your schedule, your energy, and your plans. And soon you find yourself waiting outside restaurants, in unread message threads, at the edge of your own patience. And she always has a reason, and the reasons sound believable. But over time, they start to sound recycled. And deep down you know that if the roles were reversed, she wouldn't tolerate it. Because when she makes time for you, she's doing you a favor. But when you make time for her, you're just doing what's expected, and that double standard bleeds into everything. And soon, you're the one doing the chasing, the planning, the apologizing for feeling unimportant. And this imbalance grows roots, and the resentment you swallow daily becomes heavy, and you begin to notice that her time has structure, urgency, importance. But yours is just space to be filled, delayed, or forgotten depending on her mood. And this teaches you something profound, that you've allowed yourself to be seen as someone whose presence doesn't matter unless she feels like it. And that's the kind of realization that can break a man or rebuild him. And if you let it break you, you'll become bitter, withdrawn, resentful. And that's how good men lose themselves, not because they weren't worthy, but because they let someone convince them that their worth was negotiable. And that's the lie you must stop believing, because your time is not just hours on a clock. It is your life in segments, your mission in motion, your purpose being played out moment by moment. And anyone who disrespects that, disrespects everything you are and everything you're building. And the longer you stay with someone who treats your time like a backup plan, the more you tell yourself that your priorities don't matter, your dreams can wait, your life can pause for their convenience. But the truth is, no one who genuinely loves you will ever make you feel like an afterthought. And no one who respects you will consistently test your patience and expect your loyalty, because love is punctual. Love shows up. Love remembers. And love doesn't make you feel like a placeholder while she decides what she really wants. And if she can't commit to showing up on time, she can't commit to building a future. Because timing is everything, not just in relationships, but in life. And if she's not respecting your minutes, she will not protect your decades. And you, man, were not put on this earth to wait in emotional limbo while someone figures out whether you're worthy of being prioritized. And if you ever needed a sign that it's time to move differently, let this be it. Choose you, protect your time, and give your energy only to those who treat it like the irreplaceable treasure it is. Number 5. She undermines your mission. Every man carries a fire inside him, a vision, a direction, a mission that defines who he is and who he's becoming. And when a man is connected to that mission, he becomes immovable, focused, driven. But when the one he trusts most begins to treat that mission like a hobby or a phase, something unworthy of her belief, the fire begins to dim. Not because the mission lacks value, but because the energy needed to protect it is being drained by the very person who should be fueling it, and it starts with small comments, harmless at first glance. That's a lot of time you're spending on that, or are you sure that's realistic? And at first, you explain, thinking she doesn't understand, thinking she just needs context, but it continues, and soon your dreams start to feel like burdens you have to defend, rather than truths you can declare. And this constant need to justify your vision starts wearing on your spirit, until the spark you once had becomes hesitation, doubt, fatigue, and you stop speaking about your goals, not because they've faded, but because the environment you're in no longer feels safe for ambition. And this is how it happens, not with a dramatic fight or an obvious insult, but with consistent resistance to your greatness. And if you're not careful, you'll internalize her doubt and start believing that maybe you were aiming too high, that maybe the path you're on really is foolish, and before you know it, you've betrayed yourself to preserve a relationship that does not honor the fullness of your potential. And the truth is, she sees your light, and that light either inspires her or threatens her. And a woman who is threatened by your growth will always try to keep you small. not with open sabotage, but with quiet discouragement. And the tragedy is that so many men adjust. They shrink. They settle into a version of themselves that is easier to digest, easier to support, because it doesn't force her to confront her own limitations. And that is the betrayal. When you become a version of yourself that fits her comfort instead of honoring your calling. And you don't even notice it at first because she's affectionate, present, maybe even supportive in surface-level ways. But deep down you know that when you win, she's not proud, she's uneasy. And when you struggle, she's not worried, she's relieved, because your momentum reminds her of her stagnation. And instead of rising with you, she would rather you sink with her. And you must decide, do you continue climbing with or without her? Or do you stay loyal to a connection that quietly resents your evolution? And if you choose the latter, understand this. You will lose more than time. You will lose your voice, your edge, your drive. And years from now, you will look around at the life you built, not with pride, but with regret. Because you'll know it was shaped by compromise, not conviction. And you'll see how much further you could have gone if you had chosen someone who saw your vision and didn't flinch, who heard your plans and didn't scoff, who looked at your hunger and fed it, not feared it, and you owe it to yourself to be with someone who protects your ambition as if it were her own, who celebrates your progress and holds you accountable to your highest standard, because a man's mission is sacred, and anyone who mocks it, minimizes it, or manipulates it does not deserve access to the man carrying it. Number 6. She plays the victim. It doesn't matter what happens. You could catch her in a lie, confront her with evidence, speak with calm and clarity, and still, somehow, the moment turns, and suddenly you're the one defending yourself, explaining your tone, your timing, your intention, and she's crying or cold or withdrawn. And now you're comforting her while bleeding inside, because the betrayal hasn't just been committed, it's been reversed. And now you're the villain in a story you didn't write. And this is not a misunderstanding. This is emotional manipulation in its purest form, a tactic used not to connect, but to confuse, to distort, to twist truth into narrative. And the more it happens, the more exhausted you become. Not just emotionally, but mentally, spiritually, because reality itself starts to blur, and you begin to question whether you're being too harsh, too sensitive, too demanding. And she plays this game well, always just wounded enough to elicit sympathy, always just confused enough to seem innocent. And over time, you begin to carry both your pain and hers, both your guilt and her accusations. And this burden bends you into someone who apologizes for speaking up, who avoids confrontation to maintain a fragile peace that only exists when you surrender your truth. And you must understand that this is not love. It's control wrapped in the illusion of vulnerability. And when a woman consistently plays the victim, she avoids growth, she avoids accountability. And more than that, she keeps you emotionally tethered to her pain, while neglecting your own. And this dynamic is destructive because it teaches you that in order to maintain love, you must abandon yourself. And the moment you accept that belief, you lose all grounding in who you are and what's real. And the tragedy is that many men stay in this space for years, even decades, because the cost of leaving feels heavier than the pain of staying, and they convince themselves that maybe it's their fault, that maybe they are too much or not enough. And they overfunction while she underfunctions. They become fixers, peacemakers, therapists instead of partners, and their emotional world becomes a landscape of damage control and self-denial. And if you've lived this, you know it doesn't matter how much you love her, how much you give or try or sacrifice. She will never truly see you because she's too busy protecting her victimhood to take responsibility for the damage she causes. And in this place, you must choose yourself. Not because you don't care, but because caring for her has come at the cost of your own sanity. And that is too high a price for any man to pay. And you must learn to recognize the difference between genuine hurt and strategic helplessness. because the former invites healing and the latter demands submission. And you were not made to submit to a reality where your truth is constantly reframed, your pain is minimized, and your worth is only acknowledged when you abandon it. And if she cannot own her part in conflict, if she cannot sit in discomfort without shifting blame, then she is not ready for the kind of relationship that honors truth, growth, and mutual accountability. And it is not your job to raise her emotional intelligence at the expense of your peace. And the man who walks away from this pattern is not heartless. He is wise, he is free, and most of all, he is finally home within himself, no longer tethered to narratives that never served his soul. Number 7. She divides you from your brothers. It starts when she makes a small comment about one of your friends. Nothing dramatic, just subtle enough to get you thinking, he's immature, she says, or he's a bad influence. And because you value her opinion, you start to pull back, not all at once, but gradually, missing a few calls, skipping a meetup here and there. And at first it feels justified, like you're choosing your relationship over distractions, but you don't realize what's being traded. Your circle, your support system, your anchor in the chaos. And before you know it, your world starts to shrink. Your voice begins to echo in a room where only she remains. And you don't see it happening because it doesn't come with chains or ultimatums. It comes with concern, with quiet disapproval. And you convince yourself that it's normal, that it's just a part of growing up or growing together. But deep down, something feels off, because you're no longer surrounded by people who knew you before the relationship, people who remind you of who you were when you were whole. And now every decision, every step, every thought is filtered through one person's perception. And that is not love. That is quiet control. And the saddest part is you probably helped build the cage, thinking it was commitment. But real commitment doesn't isolate. It integrates, it expands. It honors the man by honoring his foundation. And your brothers are part of that foundation. Not because they're perfect, but because they've seen your ugly and stayed. They've called you out when you drifted. They've stood beside you when the world went dark. And any relationship that demands you sever those ties is not love. It's a strategy. Because when you are surrounded by men who remind you of your strength, your worth, your path, it becomes harder to manipulate you. And that's the point. To remove the mirrors that reflect your truth so that she can rewrite it. And it may sound dramatic, but ask yourself, why does she only smile when you stay home? Why does she always have a problem with the people who won't play nice, who won't be charmed, who see through the act? It's because control flourishes in isolation, and if she can become your entire world, then she can shape that world as she pleases. And soon, your hobbies become hers. Your beliefs shift subtly, your opinions quiet, and one day, you wake up in a life that doesn't quite feel like yours, surrounded by people who all point back to her. And that's when you realize you've been edited, not out of malice, but out of manipulation. And by the time you think of calling your brothers, it feels distant, awkward, even shameful, because you disappeared, not with a goodbye, but with silence. And now the loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's your reality. And if this resonates, know that it's not too late. Because true brotherhood doesn't keep score, it just opens the door. And the man who reclaims his tribe reclaims his voice, his direction, his clarity. And no woman worth building with will ever ask you to burn the bridges that led you to who you are. Because love builds. It never dismantles the man in order to keep him. If you've made it this far, something inside you has awakened. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's pain, or maybe it's the quiet fire of a man remembering who the hell he really is. And that's not just a feeling. That's your conscience begging you not to waste another day tolerating disrespect, second-guessing your instincts, or surrendering your future to someone who doesn't even respect your present. Because now you see the pattern, now you hear the truth. And the question is, what will you do with it? Will you walk back into the same life with new eyes and do nothing? Or will you rise today with the clarity, the structure, and the ruthless self-respect to never be played again? If you're ready to reclaim your power and finally build relationships based on principle, not pity, then grab the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men, the no-fluff, zero-compromise guide forged for men like you who are done being manipulated and ready to lead with purpose. It's linked in the comments but won't stay up forever, because this kind of truth isn't for the world. It's for the few who are ready to carry it with discipline. Comment the Stoic Blueprint if you're one of them. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with the men who still think staying quiet will save them. It won't. This will.